So for the final activity that I want to talk about an enzyme simulation activity that I do with my AMP2 students. To give you a little background, this activity occurs after they have finished up Unit 3, which is dealing with digestion, and they're getting ready to start Unit 4, which begins with metabolism. And most of my students don't have a great grasp of enzymes, and because enzymes are such a key part of metabolism, I want them to have an opportunity to get a greater understanding of enzyme simulation. So the first part of the activity the students will do as soon as they are done with their exam on the digestive system. They get a sheet, they work in groups of 4, and they start by actually being an enzyme. So one person is the enzyme, and they use toothpicks as the substrate, and they look at the rate of enzyme activity under different conditions. So they measure how many toothpicks they can break in half using their thumb and forefinger with just one hand. They measure how many toothpicks they can break in half if they use both hands, so twice as much enzyme. They also hold ice for 2 minutes in one hand and see how temperature affects enzyme activity. And they keep track of that all. The worksheet that gives information as far as what they're keeping track of is posted in the next section of the portfolio. So they work on that the first night, and they answer it as a group. They do some graphing. They kind of hopefully get some understanding of what an enzyme is, what a substrate is, how they can change the rate of enzyme activity, all of those pieces. And then the next activity happens at the very beginning of the next class before we actually start talking about metabolism, and we look at metabolic pathways. In metabolic pathways, students are divided into groups of 6, and each of them is an enzyme, and each has a specific function that they need to do. So they start out with a stack of substrates. Those are the squares that are numbered 1, 2, 3, and 4. And the first enzyme's responsibility is to cut off corner number 2. The second enzyme takes a substrate and cuts off corner number 4. The third individual pokes a hole through the center. So each enzyme is doing a very specific function to the substrate. The fourth folds corner number 4, and the fifth individual folds corner number 1, and now the final person is going to stack all of these substrates together to make one large molecule, and that's what you see in the final illustration that you have here. So this one, then when they're done with this in a group, they get together and they use their text and they talk about it as a group as to whether this is an anabolic pathway or a catabolic pathway. They look in real life, what is an event that happens in our bodies that follows a similar pathway as what this particular activity does. I can talk then, or they'll talk, and I can circulate and listen to them and make corrections and make sure they're understanding what's going on. We can talk about what happens if there's a mutation and suddenly one of the enzymes is no longer functioning. Will my pathway still work? Will the pathway stop? What are some things that the enzymes do? And then I can bring all of this information from both the rate simulation that they did the first day and the metabolic pathway information that they've just done, and we can take that forward into our discussions as we look at metabolism, and I actually work on a case study with that one so they can better understand what's happening with metabolism. Just one little point, I did not take pictures of this activity when my students did it in the class this fall, and so I had my daughter help me out as we were taking the pictures. That's why if you take a look, you'll notice that every single picture has her lovely hands in it. So I appreciate that Kylie helped me out. Thank you.